What happens if OPEC and Russia join forces? Nobody talks about that. That's a game changer. Russia is a very rich land. I would not underestimate Russia.
All right, greetings and thank you for joining us at FutureMoneyTrends.com. I'm here with the legendary stock picker who's very young, but I say legendary because if you look at his track record, it is the best track record, even in the bear market. And I'm so happy to have him on the show today because he has made our subscribers a lot of money with some of the picks and some of the trends he has steered us towards. Marin, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for the kind words. It's good to hear.
Let's talk about the macro picture, Marin. You've previously talked about Russia and China using their own currencies to do trade, that was kind of definitely an attack or a hit, at least to the U.S. dollar. And you've talked about the U.S. dollar even possibly experiencing hyperinflation one day. What is the state of the U.S. dollar right now globally? What are you hearing from major insiders like government officials when you visit all across the country looking at different mines and projects?
I call it the dirty secret of all of the governments. The U.S. dollar relative to, say, the Canadian dollar has been doing well this year. But the reality is it's the Russians, the Chinese, the Indians, they're trying to look at diversifying out of the dollar. If you look at what Saudi Arabia is even doing there, they had long discussions with the Russians on major military contracts. Is something, one of the true anchors of the petrodollar, such as Saudi Arabia, flips on America. And it will happen. It's just the question is when. You will see the death of the petrodollar. And I can't emphasize how serious of an issue that's going to be. In my book, The Colder War, we really lay out all of the scenarios of what I think is going to happen with the death of the petrodollar. And that will truly determine, and mark my words, I'm the first guy in the world talking about this, how the petrodollar goes will determine who wins the colder war. And that's the title of my book. And the reason is if America's able to hold on as the reserve currency of the world, they will be able to live to see another day. But if you really see what's going on in the Middle East, in Europe, in Asia, the dominance of America is being challenged, not just by Russia, but Asia. And the strength of NATO is not what it was 30 or 40 years ago. And if the petrodollar does die, and the odds are right now that it will, Russia will win the colder war. And why will they win the colder war? Well, let's talk about this. Most of the oil that Europe buys comes from Russia. Most of the natural gas comes from Russia. Most of the uranium comes from Russia. If you look at a country like Germany, for example, they're the strongest EU 28 country. They import more coal right now from Russia than they did 20 years ago. They import more natural gas from Russia today than they did 3, 4, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Europe's becoming more dependent on Russia. And right now, Ukraine, unfortunately, and I feel bad for the Ukrainian people. I've been to Ukraine. It's a beautiful country. People are great. The resources are great. But it's just basically a pawn between the Western world, the UK, Germany, US, and the Eastern emerging markets, Russia, China. And right now, who would you say is winning, Dan? Obama or Putin? Without a doubt, it's Putin.
Yeah.
And no one can deny that. He got Crimea. He got back what Khrushchev gave to Ukraine in the late 50s. Putin is a man to watch, and you can make a lot of money in these resources if you're patient and you invest in the right management teams. Because during the last 20 years, Russia's doubled their oil production. They have almost half of the world's upgrading processing facilities for uranium. You look at Kazakhstan, they've essentially over doubled their uranium production in the last 10 years. This new alliance, the new Eurasian Union, is a force to be reckoned with. And you have two choices. You can be aware of it and try to profit from it, or you could pretend that America is the sole leader in the world and you don't have to worry about the petrodollar. But I think it's a very unwise choice.
Do you think the dramatic increase in U.S. oil production could be something that could help the U.S. government kick the can down maybe 2 or 3 decades, or even save the U.S. dollar itself?
I think the shale revolution has been an unbelievable lifeline to America. And ironically, Obama's now trying to talk about all the shit green gas. If you really go back to his 2009 mandate, it was all about green energy, windmills, solar energy, geothermal, all of these green energy, biofuels. Without government subsidies, they don't work, and we all know about what a disaster that has become. The shale revolution was the industry solving its own problems. And yes, if America, and we get into this in our book, if America does this properly, but look, there's a lot of problems. Look how California's trying to ban fracking, New York's trying to ban fracking. Avoid the NGOs' non-science fears, the fear-mongering. I debated the founder of Greenpeace, and I came with facts. Rex, bless his soul, he came with emotion. And if we're going to talk about a scientific debate, you can't have one guy talking about the science and another guy talking about the emotion. Because it's like talking about religion. How are you supposed to debate that?
Yeah.
So my point here is that if America moves forward, they can become a net exporter of the premium products. And look at Mexico today. Mexico now is a net importer of natural gas from the U.S. You know, historically, Mexico was a major producer of oil that would send it to the U.S., the Maya oil. That's the Mexican oil. It's a very waxy, heavier oil. But the Mexican government gets about a third of its revenues from their oil development, and that's been decreasing. So what do? They opened up the oil patch in Mexico. There's a major opportunity. So the Mexican government recognizes that we can't survive by importing from the U.S. They have the same type of potential as America, the same geology, if not better. You look at something like the Cantarell field in Mexico. It's a world-class field. So you'll see other worlds eventually catch up to the Americans, whether it's Europe, South America, and Argentina, the Yacamote Shale. You look at what Mexico is going to do. And if America right now has about a decade and a half head start. So I agree with you. If they play this right and build the infrastructure, build the LNG liquefaction plants, and start doing long-term contracts, they can get a strong head start. But the Russians are doing the same thing. And the Russians are building it faster and cheaper and produce more. People forget that the Russians are either number 1 or 2 oil producer in the world and number 1 or 2 natural gas producer in the world, number 1 uranium. In every commodity, they're there. Russia is also the largest country on the planet. People forget that. So, there's a real Colder War building here, and America's strength is their technology, the American innovation. If they lose that, they lose their leadership and their head start. What do I think is going to happen? I think that America will not optimize their head start. I think that you'll see countries like Russia really push forward the biggest natural gas deal ever. Biggest deal, $400 billion contract. That's just phase 1. Phase 2 will over double that. So we're talking about $1 trillion, 30-year deal to sell gas to China. What's going to happen in Iraq? I see Iraq eventually becoming at least 2 countries. What's going to happen to Syria? And, Obama's got a lot of eggs on his face. He was funding what's eventually ISIS today a year ago to fight Assad in Syria. And now he's trying to fight them in Iraq. So it tells you right now that America does not. They're chasing their tail. Obama is chasing his tail. He's going to go down in history as the Wizard of Oz. Just a voice behind the curtain. And Putin has opened that curtain to expose the wizard as nothing but a confused man. That's what Obama is.
Let's flip the conversation and just go over maybe some of the things that you're hearing that people are saying on why not to buy into the resource sector, because I know that is actually the common argument right now from investors. I mean, we're seeing mining shows close down. The other ones that are still around have low attendance. What are people saying that is driving them nuts and so fearful? And maybe some people who are listening to this can connect with that, and then we can talk about why you're investing anyway. What are some of the big fears out there?
Sure. That's exactly when, it's funny that you bring this up. It's very astute of you to recognize that these mining shows, there's literally no one. It's a ghost town. It's management executives talking to each other. That's exactly where you want to invest. For example, I took a photo at the top of the elevator at the 2011 January Cambridge conference in Vancouver. The floor was packed. It was a 2-hour waiting list to get in, and the lineup was so packed that people coming into the elevator were smashing into people waiting, and people were following and hurting themselves that they actually shut down the elevator. And I got such a kick out of it that I took a photo on my BlackBerry at the time. Now I use an iPhone. But back then I was on the BlackBerry. I took a photo and I sent it out to all my subscribers. And I wrote, a talk with a question mark. Okay? That is what a talk feels like. When people are literally falling over themselves and everybody's talking about $2,000 gold and whatever. When you can't get into a free conference with a 2-hour wait list, that's when you should be selling.
Yeah.
Today, there's no one on the escalator. There's no one even checking your badges to come to a free show, never mind a paid show. So if you're a savvy investor, you could literally just walk in for free, even if it's a paid show, because there's nobody there. The organizers just want bodies. And that's when you can go up to a Robert Friedland or a Lucas Lundin or a Rick Rule or Frank Duster or Doug Casey, and you can actually get time with these guys. And they're bored. They love this. They love the business, and they're doing it because they love it. They're not there on a salary like a teacher that they have to show up to work. They're doing it because they love it. And you can get this lifetime of experience face to face and get to know these guys, and they'll share their wisdom or knowledge or experience and lessons with you. That's why I think right now is the optimal time to invest, because it's most hated sector. All the big New York hedge funds that I talk to, they all think, resources are dead. But yet you look at some of these things that they're investing in, these biotech deals that have billion-dollar market caps with no cash flow. I look at that as insane. Where you can buy someone like Robert Friedland on 20 cents on the dollar today. You know that he's not going to give up. And the guy's written a check for tens of millions of dollars in this company at higher prices. Now, why am I investing? Because I've been around long enough to understand that you want to be bold when others are fearful, and you want to be fearful when others are very bold. Speculation. I think there's a great book by Jesse Livermore who talks about stocks and how he talks about the psychology of investing. And the reality is if you want to take Nathan Rothschild's great quote to sum it all up, you buy when there's blood in the streets. Now, where there's not blood yet in the streets physically, but if you look at a lot of the executives, they've been from becoming mining executives or exploration companies to marijuana deals because they got to pay their rent. So you got marijuana companies now trading at a higher market cap than producing gold companies. I just kind of sit there and go, geez, if you look at the cash flow, it makes no sense. So you want to buy things that are unpopular and sell them when they're popular.
How bold are you being with your personal funds right now? Is it at the point where you're all in?
I'll tell you, that's a good question. In the last, I'd say 60 days, I have invested more in the junior markets than I have in the last 2 years combined. So yes, I'm very bullish right now. And we actually just put out an article about Doug Casey's biggest bet of the year. We just literally put a lot of money into certain companies. Now we're very selective. Like my newsletters have about less than 10 companies. For example, the Casey Energy Dividends, we have 6 companies in that portfolio. The Casey Energy Report has about 10 or 11 companies in the portfolio, and the Alert has about 10. I keep it very tight. I keep it very lean, very selective. But, just 2 days ago, I sent out an alert for our subscribers where we made 300% on a company that we bought in November. 300% in less than a year is pretty solid investing in a liquid stock. So right now, I'm very bold with not just my own money, but the funds that we manage and also the newsletter. And it's been a great time. It's been a great year, great track record. So I strive in bad markets. When it's a bullish market, I'm not that excited because I don't do many deals. So I'm kind of like, they call me the Dr. Doom in Vancouver because I'm excited when everyone's bearish, but that's how you get the best deals. So it actually makes sense to me, but it's counter pop culture.
Yeah. So what are some names that you can mention today? In the past, you have mentioned some names that have seen double to, man, one of them went from 50 cents to about $1.40 shortly after you mentioned it. And I'm talking about, a big move subscribers saw. Any names out there right now that you and your partners are buying that you're able to mention publicly?
Yeah, well, I look at where UEC is currently. We're actually having a Casey conference in San Antonio on September 19th to 21st, this September in San Antonio. It's completely sold out. So it's interesting that you say that the conferences are at their lows. You're right, they are. But ours have been sold out every conference since the first one in 2006. And it's a great show. And what we're doing for our subscribers is we've made it available, if they're part of our Casey Club, to come along with Doug and I and Olivier and Louis. We're actually taking a huge busload of people to a producing, processing uranium facility. And it's one thing to see these companies pitch on a website or a telephone or at a conference, but we're actually taking them to their true facility. And that's kind of what I call the Casey advantage. That's what I'm kind of excited about when I recommend something. If I have the opportunity, by coincidence, we were doing this conference in San Antonio, and I said, well, geez, I was just down there. Why don't we set up a site tour for the subscribers who want to come? Subscribers love it. We just did it last month to the Copper Mountain, and then we did Gold Mountain. This is kind of cool for subscribers to see producing commodities here, and you can take a photo with yellow cake at the end of the day. So it's going to be a really cool trip. So, that's a company that's on our next 10 list. It's been in the Casey Energy Report, it's been Casey Energy Confidential. That's our alert service, which is now, we've had so much success and demand. There's a wait list for that service. Telling me about that today. Yep. That's one I like. I like following people, Dan. I follow the best people. That's what I try to do. And you just follow the right guys. That's the best way to make money, because I'm not the best geologist in the world or engineer or finance guy or stock picker. But what I try to do is find the best people in the business. So follow the Lucas Lundins, the Frank Justras, and stick with these guys, because in Pareto's law, 20% of the population gets 80% of the success. Then if you take the second field of that and go, okay, well, of that 20%, 20% of 20 is 4%, has that 80. So 4% of the population has about 64%, or call it 2/3 of the success. Now, I'm not smart enough to go through 3,000 companies, but I'm smart enough to figure out who the best 4% of the business are. And that's all I need to focus, because that 4 covers 2/3 of the success.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to teach people to do.
Okay, so the CEO of Uranium Energy Corp is also the founder and chairman of Brazil Resources. This company is something we have closely followed. You've mentioned them many times, and you're actually the largest shareholder, along with Doug Casey and your partner Rick Rule. This company has been aggressive in its acquisitions during the bear market. And it's funny, I actually got an email from a subscriber last week and said, hey, why hasn't BRI done anything in 2014? And it's funny because they've done so much. And especially if you look at the past 2.5 years, where they've acquired Cachoeira, acquired another gold company, and then, as you mentioned to us on our last interview, that uranium project that no one even really knows about and it's not being priced in. What are your thoughts on Brazil Resources today? Are you guys still accumulating shares?
Yes, we are actually. Yes, actually, we have been, and we're a reporting issuer. So you can see every time we buy, we report, and we haven't sold a single share. We've actually increased our position significantly. Now, let's see what Amir's done in the last 4 years with this company. He started with nothing. He started with an idea. And we financed him because we believed in him. Over the last 4, he's gone from 0 ounces in the ground to 4 million ounces, 43-101. That's impressive in itself. That's just the start. Now he's got a solid base to build it. I'm willing to go on record that within another 2 years, so let's say by this point, September 1st of 2016, I'm willing to bet that Amir will grow BRI to 6 million ounces, so he'll increase it by at least 50% ounces in the ground, and I believe he'll have production by that point. Now, to go into production in less than 5 years is very, very, very rare. Now, I just believe a guy like Amir is going to do exactly what he did in Uranium Energy Corp. He took an idea, and there was like 2,000 companies trying to do what he did. Amir today is the only unhedged uranium producer in the world, and that's what you want to do. I can't snap. I've been to all the producing mines in the U.S., and I tell every management, why are you hedging at the low of the market? It makes no sense. You have no upside gain.
Yeah.
Amir gets it. He's savvy enough to understand the numbers of the business. He's not just a mine builder. He's an equity net worth builder for the shareholders. And that's what he's going to do with BRI, or Brazil Resources, because it's in his DNA. There's just certain guys that are winners, and I see the guy's work ethic. I talk to him almost daily. He is a machine, and I'm willing to back guys like that. So that's where I'm at. And, look, it sounds boring to keep talking about the same story, but look at everyone else in this market is down 75, 80%. From Christmas time, he's at a double. Like not many guys have that. So stick with the right people and you're going to do okay.
I don't know if you're even allowed to talk about this because you're a major shareholder. I don't know if you're considered an insider or not, but I'm just curious. What do you think they're going to do with that uranium project? Because with any other gold company, it wouldn't be as sexy of a story. But with Amir being one of only 5 guys in the U.S. who manages a producing uranium company, I think it's a really big story that here BRI, this gold company who is trading at a significant discount to its gold assets. They've got this uranium project up there in Canada with a joint venture with the second largest producing uranium company. What do you think ultimately will happen to that project?
Yeah, look, I have no idea what they're going to do. We are a reporting issuer, so we are an insider. I actually don't know what he's going to do with it. I would like to see him do something with it, but one thing I can guarantee is Amir's going to optimize the value for shareholders because a little trick in our business is to see how much hard dollars, like an actual check, not accrued salaries or options or soft shares or garbage shares, I call them, actual hard dollars that rather than buying his wife a nice car or another home, Amir took that and put it into his company. Amir is the second largest investor in his own company after us, and we're a fund. There's me, Doug Casey, and Rick Rule are one group. Amir's on his own, and he's the second largest shareholder. So he's also looking after his own interests, which is aligned with the shareholders. And I believe that Amir will optimize the value of that project. Now, he's got a JV with Areva, who has a very high-grade project called Maybell. And because it's in a major like Areva, nobody talks about it. If that was in a junior company, you better believe people would know about it because that's what juniors do. They have to promote to get recognition. So I really don't know what he's going to do about it, and I don't know when he's going to do it, but I know he'll make it work and he'll get value for it. So right now I look at something like Amir, and to me it's a slam dunk. So that's why we're there.
Yeah, on a company like that with a project, what do you think that project would be worth if it was either sold to the private sector or spun off into as another company?
Well, first of all, if you compare projects that have joint ventures with like a major like Cameco or Areva, there's very few, first of all, but it would easily be worth $20-30 million in market cap, depending on what the work program of Areva is going to be on that. And if there's any success, like if there's any uranium on that, basically think of one of the highest grade projects ever in the Athabasca Basin is called Maybell. That's owned by Areva. And all the ground around that is a joint venture between Areva and Brazil Resources. If it even gets a sniff of uranium, that could double and triple, so you can potentially get the gold for free. But we don't know what essentially it's really worth, depending on if uranium goes higher or lower, what the joint venture with Areva, how much drilling they're going to do. But it's a great position to be in if you're a Brazil Resources shareholder because you didn't pay anything for that project. You got 4 million ounces and you got this whole upside on a big package for free. So it's a great position. That's the type of, look at it as a free upside. Investing in the right people, they find those types of deals. So
yeah, you certainly do get the sense of partnering with the right people, with obviously you and Rick Rule and Doug involved in it, but with Amir himself, like you said, large shareholder. And I mean, I love how this guy is relentless. I've been a shareholder in so many mining stocks, and they kind of just sit idly, especially lately because of the bear market. And Amir just time and time again just comes out with more news. Here comes another acquisition, and they're always big acquisitions. So it's certainly exciting.
Also his partners in Brazil are heavyweights. You can't. Brazil Invest Bank, that's a major player. So Mario Granero isn't getting the recognition he should be getting. He's a major player in Brazil, and that's what I'm getting at with a guy like Amir. He knows what his limitations are, so he builds a super team around him. And Mario is a major investor in this deal. It's the only junior deal that he's working on. So, great people attract great people for a reason. We don't want to waste our time. And that's what Amir's doing.
Yeah, I don't want to say that's why you'd buy the stock, because obviously it's a lot of different things. But with this many high quality individuals involved, and the management team, which is high quality, even the CEO came from the largest mining company in the world. it almost does give you limited downside risk because this group of people, they don't fail, right?
Well, the irony here is the way I play Brazil Resources is like we're the largest shareholder, we're a reporting issuer, and I hope gold goes down $1,000 because it doesn't change my horizon. I'm investing in this for a 10-year play, and I'm going to be the shareholder for 10 years. And I look at it this way. If gold goes down to $1,000, Amir is going to be able to do many more better deals because everyone else is going to be crippled in the market. If it goes to $2,000, great. He's going to make a lot of money producing these assets, and he's going to sell to someone bigger. So it's win if it goes down lower, and it's a win if it goes higher. That's what you have to invest in this business, is to be able to, that the market turns into a really negative market where if gold goes under 1,000, the management team that you're invested in, can they optimize on that situation, or are they going to be a victim? And with BRI, I am very confident that Amir is going to optimize that situation. So that's the type of lessons I'm trying to teach your subscribers and your viewers is you want to invest in the management team that's going to win if the markets go down, and it's going to win if it goes up. So that's where we're at with it.
Okay, so you've mentioned gold, $1,000 gold a few times here, that you'd like to see that, or it would be great scenario. Personally, do you really think that is going to happen? I mean, I don't really see $1,000 gold, but of course, I didn't see the market going from 1,900 to 1,100. Do you personally think that it really is going to go to 1,000, or are you just saying that you'd like it to?
I would love it to, not like it to. I would love it to go under 1,000. I don't know. A lot of guys try to sit and I read a lot of reports on what gold's going to do. And what I realize is nobody knows. But one thing I've learned over the years, Dan, is to expect the unexpected. And it could, all I'm saying. It could also just bounce right back to 1,100, 1,500. To me, it's irrelevant if it's 1,150 or 1,350. It doesn't change anything for me, really, because we're investing in the right management teams for the long haul. And we invest in projects that can make money at $1,000 anyway. So if it goes down to 1,000, I'm going to make a lot more money in 5 and 10 years than I will if it just stays around 1,300, because these management teams that are what I call average will still be able to survive for a while. So I would love it to go down to 1,000 because it'll just have a huge flush out of all the mediocre people that should be, car salesmen or not in the business. Get rid of all the riffraff in the business and let the winners take this business to the next level. So what do I think? I don't have an answer for you. I really don't know, but I would love to see it go under 1,000.
Yeah, Marin, a lot of people, when they hear you talk about 5 years, it seems like, it's just, that's forever. You know what I mean? And most people, I think the average a person will hold a stock is around 4 months, probably a lot less, for people who are buying the junior resource sector. As soon as they go down 20% or up 20%, they might cash out. Do you treat any of these as trades, or are you really treating all of these as a business partner?
No. First of all, we have certain investments that we go very long on. Like what you're saying is, we're making a 5-10 year bet on a player. That example is BRI with Amir. And there's lots of deals that, a banker comes to my office and says, hey, here's a good opportunity. If I like it, we'll take it. And I don't look at it as a trade, but we won't hold it for a year or 2 years. If it's liquid and I can get out 6-8 months, sure, I'll take that opportunity if it's a non-core holding. But for my core holdings, I go long. For example, with Copper Mountain, I've been involved since 2006. So, I'm entering my 9th year as the board member of that company. But, we're the 3rd largest producing copper mine in Canada today. When you find a right management team, like when I found Jim O'Rourke, I knew back then, and I stood up at the Casey conference when I inducted him into the Casey Explorers League. It was a huge honor for me because this was a man that I spent Saturdays and Sundays with. When everyone else was out doing whatever they're doing on the weekends, him and I would have breakfast on a Sunday morning, and we would work all day in the office and go through projects to figure out how are we going to finance this mine. And I knew at that time, I know I'm a workaholic. I know what my problems are. But I was admired that here's this man, twice my age, willing to teach me and work just as harder than I'm working. And I said at the Casey conference, mark my words, this guy will be in the Canadian Hall of Fame of mining. And in January of 2013, the first airplane ride I took after my heart surgery was to go see Jim get inducted into the Canadian Hall of Fame of mining. It was a great honor for me just to see it happen because I saw it years before. That's a great honor for Jim O'Rourke. So what I'm trying to get at is you find the right guys and you go long. It's like building. I always talk, Dan, about building a franchise around Michael Jordan or LeBron James. When you find a superstar, go long. 5 years is nothing. Let your core position. It could go down 50%. It could go up 200%. But that's nothing. Some of these juniors can become 10, 20, 30 baggers. Look at what Robert Friedland's done, or Frank Juster, Lucas Lundin, like even Africa. I was banging the table on this dollar. I went on national television and talked about it. You know, it went to $12. Now it's sitting at $7. These things can go up 5, 10 times, come down half. But if you find the right team, go long. Now that doesn't mean you can't play a trend and make a sale or, you know, play the markets. But you're going to make your big money on the companies that you go long and hold for 5 to 10 years and make 20 times your money. That's where you're going to make your big scores. Everything else I look at is noise. You know, you can make 50%, 20%, 100%, whatever. You can lose 50%. You don't know what's going to happen, but you make your big score going long.
Marion Katusa, I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks in San Antonio. If anyone would like to subscribe to KC Research, just go to kcresearch.com. You can find Marion Katusa's letter there. Great advice. Big plays here, guys. There's big money to be made in the resource sector over the next few years. And one of the guys who's partnered with Rick Rule, Doug Casey, and who himself has had many successes is right here giving us some of his best picks. Marion, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Dan. Take care and see you in San Antonio.